Chunana chanju badu dani jabso chin, bagi jinso gibe tsonam gin, dola benje sangye du boy shu. Tsogi chunana chanju badu dani jabso chin, bagi jinso gibe tsonam gin, dola benje sangye du boy shu. Chonam la chanju badu dani jabso chin, bagi jinso gibe tsonam gin, dola benje sangye du boy shu.
다 딜레지 다 딘나마 젬바츠는즈바 그놈의 쇼로카리는 안도 진소 파신 투르죠 뒤땡이도 다 파신 담보 파신 투딜라가 봐 젬베 파신 빼나 담보들라 젬베 파신가 젬바 아니 술춤 아니 zuba 아니 준주 아니 samden 아니 시럽 아주 베베게 파신 투데로 나 어떤 거 아니고 파신 로딘다고
맞아.
나 콘서트에 니모지 길랑고 과시라 이내야 뜻이나로라 그 파신 때 이제 되나서 도도도도라.
Okay, now like from here on, the text, the next six stanzas in the text, it talks about the six great perfections. And now just to give you a perspective, we in the classical monastic education, we spend like almost 6-7 years studying the six great perfections. So maybe like but like this is not to say like you cannot like ever begin to fathom like the six great perfections, but with the time we have, maybe we can try to discuss and try to get an idea like what are these like six great perfections are all about. So the six great perfections in Buddhism are the first Jimbarwa, the great perfection of generosity, and then it's the great perfection of ethical conduct, and then it's the great perfection of patience or tolerance, and then it's the fourth one is the great perfection of joyous effort, and then the fifth great perfection is the great perfection of samden songra, concentration. Great perfection of concentration, and then the sixth great perfection is the great perfection of wisdom. So here, like the next six stanza, it deals with each of this perfection in this order.
아니 슈롱오보 나라 따침 회지 그스라 대시 렌당서 남메라 머레위스 제바도 바제살라네라 딱한다 가르라오스나 지당기 짐바스니데 가르고라나 모니 고라 짐베기 칭이로 모로 샤와이나 먼저기다 수수그레와라 가상아도 슈바나시기 수수기 짐바시다네 나라 따리 주망알은 제부중으로 삼딜레 레와메 바라 제가 남일래 레와이나 그냥 짐바 장마지 책이요. 다이네 판 띵서우르나데 지동자 섬데 마마도 마무지 라이라. 딜라는 그때 차타지 간다 짐바스니데 간데지 골라나 수수기 진양 마와다 쪼든 짐바 땅와이나 레와라 마미 라. 일 콜 파지 지와나 아치지 지르사나 마이베 파기 운이 미딜라 강이 미네 스미스이나라 어디 강이들라 아 펜토사레스는 지게
now like the first of these great six perfection is illustrated in the 25th stanza, and now it says the practice of all the Bodhisattva is to give out of generosity. Then the question arises like, how do you define generosity? And we discussed a little bit about like how do we define generosity a little bit before. So then we talk about like giving without expectations, giving without expecting something in return. And of course, in the scriptures, there are different levels of generosities, and there are many different factors that differentiates like between the level of generosity in the scriptures. But for the purposes of this course, let's not try to like talk about this kind of difference in generosity. But here, as the question arose in the last few sessions, like maybe like it's kind of selfish, this Bodhisattva practice. But then here, like we get an answer to this kind of questions when we talk about generosity. And generosity without expectations in this like in this life, and then maybe like this mental at the back of mind, we might feel like maybe even when you do it for like to earn like good karma, this is some sort of like expectation. But when a Bodhisattva practices the great perfection of generosity, he does this without expectation of reward in this life, and without even the expectation of like this serving as a recompensation, this serving as a karmic recompensation. Yes.
타바다 타지체 타바라 가와치와 치고라 피나시기 딘데 아니 상추 선바도 저기 아니 피지 소소기 류이네 짐바 땅토고라 딘데 이땅 투와다 땅 고와이나 안저기 싫어 뭐보 지 응으레 지 걸로레 카리나 사야 통에 카리네라 딘데기 아니 뭐보나데 따치면 딘데 땅 고도 고스라 딘데기 제메 냠네 쳐라 아니 소소 류자야 류야제데 땅 표에게 땅고백이 냠네들이 지치고 있는데 쇼롱고 보도도 인데 이라 도시로라 대시를 안에 랜당을 안주부터 수수기 지기 미기 깨라로 주로라 지니야 파지대와는 쓰지라길라는 딩랜치라 지는 남에 온가 파지대와는 아주 뭐 주부 차기래 나 딘데기래와다 땅데 현다다 진주로 먹고지를 선을 땅와이는 강하게 제바디 정말 선바 차고 뭐 레스라 근데 미래위 딘데기 미래위 돈에 젠다 파기라 땅다 현다다 조라 sano matani ani gitende jembaya po chama semba chama kunu chama tawade ani jese shanju sambana nyamne re esra.
And then in the last two lines it further stresses the point of like how do you define like this perfection of generosity of a bodhisattva. So you see, as a bodhisattva, the prime like aim is to seek liberation or seek awakening. So if we are striving towards this goal of like liberation or awakening, then in this pursuit as a bodhisattva, when we know like it demands that we should not even cling to our own bodies, that we should the moment arise or should the opportunity arise, then we should be able to like sacrifice our own bodies. Then there is no need to mention that like the outer or the material possessions and objects need to be sacrificed too. So this is, to sum it up, the great perfection of generosity that is practiced by the Bodhisattva is defined by this lack of expectation of reward in this life, and then like even doing away with this feeling of like karmic recompensation.
이시라니 저는 테스트 상담이라는 거라 모르지. 다디가라 지금 니시 자루거든 갈라나 주름. 와. 주름디 갈라나 지나기 주름라나 갈라나 수수기 류가 있어 고동 라. 다나도 류가 예는 여러봐. 근데 인상 근데 수수 약과 채워 있나? 류가 있어 고지 로차니도 가르쳐 딱딱 채워 있나? 그 주름 소원이라. 계시 수수기 주름 수수기 야보 맞아야지 밀지 치고리고 치고라나 미주 기무셔야기 내 차고라. 주름 매바란데 민두피에스 민두나스 수수로 야보 마선데 수수 로니 길아가지 채워 있네. 된다다도 주두고 말아. 근데 인상 아니 네 소수트로 야고 마선데 네 이생이 된다를 내가 지인이나나 아니 믿지 게무셔야기 내려 쳐그랬어. 가시라 그래. 코랑 야고 맞에는 밀 야고 치고는 되게 게무셔야래 지리고랑 알아서 지대는 신으로. 근데 인자 아니 소수 담보 류가 예수님 아니 고 Ratana to make it so that Jelle Tuzerana on Shishora. What indeed is also the trash tower Abusung, yes. Kesim Soso Kaguchi Majani Milici Unichal and Migimusha nature or yes. Teshire any Sibin del Deba me by Casa Teshire, Sibin Deba me by Surusun was a thing. Chesa Kanda Kanji Maji Karachakolana, Soso gave a Sushin the Apochin Suwaina, and Military Chichi Unichakolana, me and Yingere, and didn't they chingy dilla and Surungi Karsa, the Negata Sosogi goes on with Chibat Session to Nidala and Telaworkalo. Surusumana.
Now we move to the second great perfection of the Bodhisattvas, and in the 26th stanza, the first line reads, "The practice of all the Bodhisattva is to observe ethical restraint." And the second great perfection is the great perfection of ethical conduct or ethical restraint. And now when we talk about ethical conduct, what do we mean by ethical conduct? Now ethical conduct is like restraining oneself from committing or engaging in non-virtuous deeds. And these non-virtuous deeds are said to be divided into like three sets of non-virtuous deeds: the ones that come from our body, the ones that come from our speech, and the ones that come from our mind. So in a way, like restraining all these three conduits of like a non-virtuous deed is considered the ethical conduct or the great perfection of ethical conduct. And now to stress the point of the importance of the great perfection of ethical conduct, if you read the second last line, the two last line in the stanza, it reads like without discipline or without ethical restraint, one will never be able to achieve one's own well-being. And now, like if we kind of think about it, like in a very like gross sense of way, then like motivation alone will not like let you achieve a goal. It is very important to have like the discipline to stick to it. So, and then it talks about this like ethical restraint being this discipline to keep sticking to it. And so now the last line it reads, so any thought of bringing benefit to others would be absurd. So this like tries to show you like how you should approach the danger of being a hypocrite. You know, if you are not yourself behaving in an ethical conduct, then how would you be able to like tell others, or how would you be even like think about like benefiting others? So this is this great perfection of ethical conduct.
Pena phamado jila so michi misanga thumba dang so nami la dine thupa jana jawdo din yina ra so phama dine jina dig pudla an kya ya pacha thuba jaya mara ani thumba sama chambu chula pudi ne ge mushiro pala ma khona inde chidu ngala inde lagudu la ra tia missing na wa do mara.
So now just to give you an example, let's say like the parents of a child, and these two like parents of the child, they themselves are always engaging in fights with the neighbors, and they are always like they're always using harsh words. And if this kind of parents give the advice to their children like be friendly with your neighbor, or like take care of the words that you use, then the children of course will find it hard to believe, and children will find it hard to believe in these like type of ideas that the parents are trying to inculcate in him.
Chesa ani sosoge yabu chi na milala na nyigora diga la chambachi so la ina ngazo nimanga zo warna sla di hindi jangar de gen de sungu de zo gandhi ji na ja na zo chamju samba khele ngora gandhi ji de ngamu chue ga go isra chida ngamu chue de di ba yo de de marera ta khora ngamu chue ga uche ani nimaji amaji la pugu be ngamu sa ga go ra 다 간디지도 미때 배 자와침보다 미참하게 직드사지로 근데 이제님은 아마리게 간디지도 틀리다 부디 간디지도 틀리는 안에 디 부디 배 따버신 가면서 두스라 먼저라는 얘기입니다. 경화치 손으로 시엘라다. 간디지게 간디주 그런 아무 취해가 보인사라. 근데 다른 이유가 말했어요. 저랑 보고 마치 주스. 된다치기 전에 티셔는 연락해 줘서. 이 손에 들어가나 간디주 그런 아무 취해되다가 냥 마살라는 근데 나와도 보여 말했다. 팽이 말다. 무슨 소리 냐면 줘라. 근데 간디지게 된다치기 아무 마살 빵. 아무 빵. 대제라 이제 보고 틀리나 저랑 아무 사야 말했다. 그디 님이 소라. 소리게나 가는 얘기나 하는. 지금 밀라와라 또 소리 냐면 줘다. 지금 가지고 미신 봐 소소 보이나래. 소소 통바이나 팔라와라 소소게 아버지야 되게 참으라. 배선도 되지지.
Now I would like to maybe like if I give you this example like I remember when I the drawing la pedusambara. So when I went to like study the Hindi language in Varanasi, and then like the teachers they told me like this story, and I think like this ties this beautifully like exemplifies the concept of the perfection of ethical conduct, and it's a story about Gandhiji. You know Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. So like it's a story about Gandhi, and Gandhi there was Gandhi is famous for his like sweet tooth, you know. He loved to eat like sweets, and but then like one day a mother came to Gandhi and like brought her son with her, and then like asked Gandhiji like, you know, this little kid would not listen to me. He's always like asking for sweet, and he's always asking for sweet. So please like try to make him understand that sweets are not good for him. And then Gandhi said like, at the moment like I cannot say anything, but bring the kid out to me like after a week, and then maybe I can talk to him. And then the reason that Gandhi did this was because at the time when like this mother brought the kid in front of him complaining about his sweet tooth, then Gandhi himself, he was eating sweet at that time, so he couldn't like bring himself to talk about the defects of eating like sweet to the kid. So he was honest with himself, and he was a stickler for ethical conduct. So he asked the kid to come back after a week, and in between when he had the time, in between this 2 weeks, he tried to give up like sweet himself, and only then he gave the kid the advice like, do not eat sweet, you know, it's bad for you. So maybe in this way we can get an understanding of the perfection of ethical conduct.
근데 나 지난번에 마치 미제리 수수 부부도 다들 먼저 저서 뭐 뭐더라. 수수 콘솔을 랩지 자고서는 수수가 담보 아래 디 냠네 체로자. 수수야 뭐 마제네 밀레디니 칠라네 때 예무시 내레란 단다디 지간들 저요라. 다들 비드베 슈슈 서버샤고지 말라.
So as a lay person, like try to relate this to your own experience, or maybe like the possible situations that you might find yourself in the future, because as lay person it's possible that we might have like kids in the future, and when you find yourself in the same situation, then always try to see like if you are being honest with yourself, if you can actually give this kind of advice to your kid, and so this is the way to approach it. Now like we wouldn't like go into like the detail or the subtle like, you know, nature of these perfections right now.
타디가라 타다 zubenyame tendra sholoka ni tsadendiye ani gewe longchi gewe jeselas ani neji anji renchin te dan chons deshikon las shinde mi pai zobo gomba jesela ne islam tsadi tadi karta onana gewe anonje le ta chidang jo gewa sanra digi ani gyawala anen gyawa sawa da dini gewe ginde buta dewa yumura tinde ginde ngi ge se da shamshu samba da zo sira dala ani chidang ta ga zo ni jal ko cho shamshu samba la tro ni ba da ni jal ko ya da ani neje thanje ren chen ta da chung la di te pen na chidang shamshu samba da de gi mi ke ba ta ma do la chira neje chi ni ji do ne ba chen ge da la ren chen ten na shen ga zo ge ren bu chi da den zo le zao chen bu zo ra de de ra den zo ge ko a le te pe zao chen bu ji shen ga zo ba gom se yu du le ra zao chen bu zo ra ga zo de ge zo ba gom se da control ni de la ma zo pa du ja de ra ko pe du ja de ga la ende chi su ni le ra je san je se shamshu samba du zo gi ji bu ta ma du zo kha re chi wo la na den de yu zo ba gom se yu du lu de ga la ren bu chi gi te ni ba na shen ge ani control la color 텐데도 충분해서 공조가 가와 검사지 나 저거 검사 유차스 노스라 대시르스 건라 신데미 바이르디 텐데위 스콘롤라니도 저나라 저바 가르다 지기 콘롤라니도 지 마지와 순주로와 도졸라 아니 그런데 신데미 저도 상마라 저랑 마가와 마제니에스라 아니 저바 검 그러나 저바 검바디 아니 제제 상주 선바도니 냠네 레라 네 냠네 나오레스
Now the third great perfection is the perfection of patience or the perfection of tolerance. And now, like if we read the second last lines, then with this example, it's illustrated very beautifully. And now, since we accept in the Buddhist belief, we accept that if we are able to engage in virtuous deeds, then we are able to accumulate good karma or like good merit. And this source of good karma or good merit, these good karma or like good merit is a source of happiness for you in this life and in future. So in the end, merit serves as the source of happiness for you. So now the example is given here. Since any potential source of harm is like a priceless treasure, for the Bodhisattva, the way he approaches like anyone who tries to harm him or any like object of anger that he sees, he or she treats like these source of harm like a priceless treasure, because these like object, as we discussed before, like if there is no object of anger, then how do we practice tolerance? So it ties into that same kind of concept. And now, since like merit, accumulating good merit is the source of happiness, then like we need an object of like tolerance too. And these like source of harm, we need to learn to look at them as like teachers, or learn to treasure these type of source of harm learn to treasure these like source of harm, and to know that ultimately they give you the opportunity to practice tolerance and to accumulate good merit, which in the end, ultimately is a source of happiness for you. And so, in practice, in view, they view it like this. Now, in practice, the practice of the great perfection of tolerance or great perfection of patience is characterized by this lack of like even a speck of animosity towards all. And when we say like the great perfection, in this sense, we talk, of course, about the practice of the Bodhisattva.
세상 단단한 zube디가 게 페도다 나 카르테나 마 시긴이스라 가시나 zuba 고민도 같지만 깔리카브로 차이도 봐 심바도 된 점도 zuba래 컨트롤 남상한서 컨트롤제 바까야 베 깔레로 요라 근데 인자 아니다 디가는 가란데기 칸투도도다 아니 시원도 된타네 칸투도시 얘기 미도 예스라.
So maybe all the other like qualities that are mentioned in the sixth great perfection, you can like kind of like get an idea. But the most practical one I find is this practice of tolerance, and I understand practicing tolerance or cultivating patience in the face of like anger is a tough job for any one of us. So like maybe I feel I want to like try to like help you with methods that I can think from my own real life experience, as well as like the stories and examples that are recounted in the scriptures.
China ended with Lara. Tanda Junju Nalo as a Bogundang, Colombus, Junju. Tinalo like Penang to Pedo Shawina, such a Sama Susajilla, Temera, Tema the Susajilla to Pash. Such a Bajilla Padoina, that's such a Sama Temaina, and to Campbell Sur Dutumura. Today in Satachanagi, that the Kuala Peshara, Qua in another pillar, Niman Ham, the Yomara, Kuala Hungry Conny, to the Ganata, Kanta Ham the Tid like Chanagi and Kuayo Shana, Chana Campbell Sumara. She sing Napagi the Tema the Sama Tema in Bashasha, not Tema de la getting up and she was drove those. The door Chevalani, Sinjing Papa and such a Casaka Chanagi Papa and the Tingana, Apagi Dogos up at Papa Papa and Diane. Today in Santa Carchula, Tokyo, Susupai Hordo and Tipper and Doa Chevala, Susugal Hang Tigra. Digging the Lagoa Yoshavena, and can Hordo and Doctor Pagilesa the Pato, can come at Sema Masui, and Pendo restaurant. The Chennai City Jurina could see the radiation. Did Pelchio.
Now, like, one of the examples and one of the ways like tolerance is explained in the scripture, in the text called the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way by Shantideva. Then he explains it with this example. Imagine like you have to cross a threshold of like thorns, and there is a place and it's like filled with thorns, and you have to cross this area that's filled with thorns. And then like if you're of course you do not want to be like pricked by this thorn as you walk on it, so you feel like then like when you come up with a solution in Tibet back in the days, like now, like not even Tibet, let's just say like if the person's approach is to like get a piece of leather and then like trying to cover the whole area with leather so that like he's not pricked by the thorns, then it doesn't really make sense. He has to use like endless amount of leather to cover this area of thorns. But if you are able to come up with a solution of like using this leather to make a kind of shoe for these two like feet that you have, then you are able to walk on the thorns without pricking yourself. So this is likened to the practice of cultivating tolerance.
Tadi tunda di kala was narwa. Kirangi zabakumsa yuita daro shora. Tapene manze michiliki tupado sho michila magawa chawaina. Ra. Tachirangi dimmi base. Okay, then is something. That is so in the paying mare. And the Jawi Pingada, Hamadi Euro, Kalayura. That comes some members. And the Jella Pinjay Pinjada, the Nima, Tumbachi Bado, the Lanura. That the members. The name of the Carica Jacob to any letter. Right. Today the Changi control of a Conello and the daddy never son. Zoarim, Chichi Mambuleva. Right. Today in the Anim. Dile sosogi that daddy you mo the cousin tagi ledo you mo daddy sosochibo di ma daddy ma luna di ma chashana did that sama yumara shazan the chibo jinares sosochibo ma manas the lo sosochibo lo derwa va de kundola chibo ma kawaina di shimba mi shimba that sama jomdora inji mi chana pagila sega to bodo ra on the pe di shower.
So the meaning behind this analogy is like this. Now imagine you are in a conflict with someone, and then you fight with this person, and then you in anger you try to like end this person once and for all. And this is the when you are consumed by anger, this is the feeling you have, that you want to end this person once and for all. And when you do that, what happens? Even like if you are able to defeat or subdue this like enemy that you perceive in your head, what happens? Once you defeat this person, then by extension, behind him, like his friends, his relatives, his parents, his neighbors, his countrymates, like they come behind him, and then like you have to face this like endless amount of like enemies. But these then you have to face like this endless amount of like outer enemies. But if you are able to subdue the real enemy of anger inside you, then you do not really have to take on this task of like you're facing an endless amount of outer enemies.
Teacher, Tachidang Zamzayam Sanachi Kartana, Miji Channel, 6 to Buru Lava, Namju Duja Tiaman, Tachiki Sozola, Mados Tonga, but 6 to Lagina, Lamsa the Tzidlape, Dembarach machine. They Konga la Caracela, Santa, and Churchadora. They came and cook it sick drudgery. The immediate time at Anju cause on the Dajira. They didn't call the Pashapatanshana. Canonical Kepuchis. That could sit to Buchi Lava the Latini. I'm carrying big on a Sano Town, and Dopa Colonel would listen to Churchaduda. Kangi Mamujan to town the leisure. Pagale make it to Bujilana, Jigmi Tatanare, Jinam Jutana, the digital Hansupe, Aranzuki, Yasushito. They carry during the new secret Sanada, Telepe, Chunagi, Shuchumbujiman, Zemina, what doesn't then in Yen Patanshana, Can December Karikan Kuchimara. Then Stangado Namji Naja General Shuson and Ridigal, Santanajura.
Now another instant when like when another instant of anger arising in us in a realistic social situation is when we are faced with like harsh words from other people, and then like we have like this angry reaction to this. Now like when I want you to think about like the nature of the harsh words. If we think about like the ultimate nature of the harsh word, in the end it's just a sound, right? And it doesn't really have this physical ability to harm you in any way. And then and if worst comes to worst, then like it's just a sound. It comes, you can take it in one ear and then try to like let it out from the other ear. But what we do is we like we stubbornly hold on to this anger without meditating, without trying to think about like the nature of these harsh words. We sort of stubbornly think about it, and then this creates like mental disturbances inside us.
Kangi Mamuchi, Chidai Mikashi Keshina machine, Ninja Kunu Dujamina, Kaitsu would learn, Matudilla Shuchimbo, Tano Anata Maloya, marriage Pashawa, Kangi Mamuchi, Susu, Dinga Kashalana, Chicken, Logo Michizaka, and then Santa Dudura. The camera could chicken ninja cookies and Shigi Marsan. Chicken could dress and dress on Susu de Nashi Mebacha, Susan Nashi Kibucha.
So now about still like holding on to the example of harsh word, then I told you maybe like you can just like approach it like this is just sound. It doesn't really have the physical like ability to harm me, and you can take it in this way. And then like another way of looking at it is like being like aware of the danger of imposing our own like paranoia, our own fear, because like some people, it's just the way they talk, sometimes due to like the way they are brought up, they do not really know how to talk like gently. And in this kind of situation, like if we project our own fear, our own paranoia, and our own like doubts on his or her behavior, then it doesn't make sense. So we have to be always mindful that we are not projecting something inside of ourselves on the behavior of others, and such that like the perception of reality is distorted for us.
Tadigalan Tando Suzuki, some Shibachi Town, some Damana Diana, so Kondo Lam, Kondo Meba Kandesodra, Pandos and Namzameva said there, and it's the Machulo, some of the Chukumado, Matachi, and the Zotumas. That chicken Carzel and Anzo Penokin, more to put Nako than Lava in a rat. Chiron Bay, Maro, Gigi, Mabuchi, Merado, Tamina. Nashiras and Machogas. Ra, Meratani Yobanasi, Alateratani years. Carrying Michigan Marathon, up at the Shibuchi Pashungueda, Karan Jumbo, the Donga, the Chiki Lawin, to Shushu, the Michigan Lajul, then Churasimba, my Shungue Yomaris, Karan and Shushan Teratani members. And then Santana, symbol gangi tinga ra susu gangi susu mebsera chena tinde santawen ani mishima jingmera ta kyama ko kashi jingmera ta ngal toratani khazir ra ya toratani shu gatani ya kyama ngal mera tani yorsna su tata do dutura ti kare no musamsana ani su symbol susu dawje no chawra
now like as we talk about how we should deal with anger and how we should cultivate patience or tolerance, there is no like magic fix to this. There's no magic like instant fix to this. Like you take a medicine and then suddenly you're cured of this like a need to feel this of anger, and or like you can just wash away your anger. I guess you take a bath. But maybe another way of like approaching this concept of cultivating tolerance is to think from a wider perspective. Sometimes we get so confused, like we tend to like have tunnel vision, right? So maybe like take a step back and try to think from a wider perspective. In the case of harsh words, still holding on this example of harsh word, like if some people like try to belittle you and say like something like try to belittle you, then like try to think about it from a wider perspective. Like, okay, if there is this person who is trying to belittle me, then of course I've ran into people who've praised me too. Right? And then of course the same applies when you feel like I'm becoming full of myself. When somebody is praising me, then try to remember like there was once a person who tried to belittle me too. So maybe like from trying to like take a step back, not falling into a tunnel vision when you are in the grips of anger, and trying to like think from a wider perspective is one way of cultivating the practice of tolerance.
Shu kasa khani santan la ra chi kharche la na jinde chi lu la go sa da zuba Gompa tu e kangi thun inji mi ju khonto chu mara khari ni kangi khari ra tigal tezi tu te lamsa por tsi la wa da phar lamsa khate ma ja ya chen ra tu tezi lele chen ra sanna ta di kharchin jinje khara de te chi go yam da su tezi ma lamsa pan jing na 파기래 주는가로 아니 매도마서는 매바디가 농시는 뭐 맞cher체도라 파기래 쇼징가 소소시라 망나 파쇼 미디어 모르서 나 오늘 쇼징 가서도 꼭 개부지 라임들라니라 잠도 아니 이제 장부 차야 되려요라 내야 쇼치가냐 상무된다
Then at the moment of like anger arising in you, then one of the best ways to practice tolerance is not to have an instant reaction, like not to have like this compulsion or impulsion to react immediately to this source of anger, to try to like take your time to process this transgression, try to process like your own reaction before you react, and try to process this interaction, and try to take a step back and try to like stop yourself from having an instant reaction, immediate reaction to the situation. Otherwise, sometimes like when we act like immediately, then we end up like adding fuel to the fire. Yes.
So what you mean is you have the internal reaction, but you wait before you act. Right?
Yeah. The chi la namgyu madune ra nonol da lung sa di ras chi na namgyu madune la idla waras.
Tere
The internal reaction will happen.
What?
I mean, the internal reaction will happen. But
The internal reaction, yeah, but you should not let it manifest in your physical behavior.
Yeah.
지금도 신앙이 가거라 같은 데 빼. 내가 비lamsa 남서 variation 카투 되어이나 하기 미추슈라. 라. 카투테스 카투에나 디 슈에디 켄데 뉴도라. 라. 심플 콘도 chana 콘도 사이즈 나 로도인 미시바 좀 걸을 슈기만. 라. 계속 chana 파지 슈에니 츠지스 ngol mas na lo ba chaira
so ideally like you should not react immediately internally and externally, ideally, right? But why the thing that we have control over right now is the physical aspect of it, right? So if we think about it, like if we are able to restrain ourselves from physically reacting in an angry situation, then we are in less danger physically, right? There's this less danger of of adding fuel to the fire in this situation, and like protecting ourselves from like physical harm like practically if you think about it. And then mentally we can always work with ourselves, right? We can be angry, but we can go home and process this information.
tapi suzuge yabu she ire ra tangara di pedo da long cha da din din zu jin se sama she ra da din di chiri gala tigal ani suzu shuzo na mando digala ani samta ra manzu din o ngi manga din di jang te ngone ta nga din di chin pendo du sa suzu nyamne che ra manzu di tem na la jang chi buji da tem na la du le chi buji ma ra ngi din ma she so la chi buji ma chuna din ke ju chi so la chi ma ngi ni re nga zu cho chi ani la ne le ke tang mu re ra.
So now, like I've recounted, like I think a lot of like examples from my own life, examples, practical examples from the scriptures to try to like try to give you an understanding on how to practice like tolerance. And now, like I want to stress this point, like you came for this spiritual course. I'm giving you a teaching, reading the scripture, and the translator is trying to like. Translate this for you. Let this not just let like this not like end here, you know, just as an intellectual exercise, like just as an exchange of information. I want you to think about the practice that are mentioned in this text and try to really like relate this when you go out of this place, and like when you go back into like some sort of when you go back to like a human society in your own communities. Try to like practice and relate this to the everyday experiences that you will have when you go back. Does this help everyone a little bit? So did you gain like some sort of new perspective? Or like this? Do you think like this will give you the opportunity to try and transform yourselves?
Kisi tandang dehi ju sama chema tu na ne tis chinara kya jin nyamnu sa ta dara shuso no no do nyamnu wa tini shini hago tadang az kha de la chi puchi mai ba su su ba de ale de de semban wa pena azo gi phama de la de de china de chi a de ni ma mo chi la ura na de ro de ne de chi ro de ne ma de ani chi chi ro ni de zabza chi la na mo langa do de tini da ro ale amala pala de la yu de chi ngi ga chau ju re de zabza chi ore tigala ni namshi thamo lai da tulu thutku ta langa ngone do nga theng uda ale amala ya diresha pala ya diresha dine dulan ta nga de la langa te ro chi pur ra ngone di soso gi mi chi de la soso gi sana tang do ra khare phendo cha nga mi in mi nan ju ra nam ju de pheshen ni khare ya ga do khade chen ya soso san tang do ra.
Now, in the end, like this is a text on the practice. So experience, you will be only able to like internalize these like practices that are mentioned in the text with your own experiences, not by an explanation that I gave you. But I will give you this example. Like when we were kids, like our parents, they always like out of concern for us, they always give us a lot of advice, right? Even when we're like going out alone. Then they say like, okay, if you are taking this road, there is a water body nearby there. Be careful when you are near there. And then if you cross this water body, and when you reach like this area, it's quite cold there. Take this coat with you. So in this way, maybe like the way I'm trying to explain the text to you is in this way. But when you go out on your own as a kid, you only know like this advice are applicable when you experience when you come near the water body, then you know like the advice is applicable only when you experience like only when you come near the water body, and when you reach the mountainous area, you know that you need to wear this coat, and you are able to like practically use this advice only when you experience it. So I want you to try to relate this to your experiences, day life experiences, as much as you can.
아니 도통 두부 키쇼스 아니 이 코드도 두부 키쇼 샤무 키쇼 카레 키쇼 카 근데 가지고 있는 늘 자주 가서 파기 카레 하고 뭐라 아니 파기라 레디가라 추보르도 키쇼스 이게 간다 추라 말아도 근데 요 추차고 키에도 요 근데 키쇼 아니 겨나게 니체도 두부 키쇼 늘려도 다 오늘 근데 키고 있나 마이나 근데 다 연나면은 싸가지요 파기를 따따따따따 리도 오늘 쉬고서 아니 지금 불랑아도 지 탑다더니 상암들이 미리 추차오라기 말아. 수주 추차오 그런 따따다 강이 책임다. 안 돌로도 그런 남시 장문들에 남상한테 대표시다해도. 봐. 안 딘디네 재산 대단 아주 전지대 남들 로다시 다 배춘주지로. 내가 나시 나란들 지 단다이 배션 나로면 땡샤지 수수기 냠네 제외네. 니 super 차고라. 수수미 세상이 못해.
Now, like another example, another experience that I had myself, I would like to tell it to you. For example, I was invited to go to Ladakh. Then it was summer here in Norbulinga, and summer in Norbulinga is quite hot. And when I was called to Ladakh, the one who invited us, they told us to bring warm clothes, thick blankets. To bring water bottles, to bring water kettles, because there are water kettles, and then they warned us about these are the things that you need to bring to Ladakh. And as I am sitting here in the hot climate of Norbulinga, then I felt what are they on about? And then as I travel to Ladakh, actually, then when you meet these circumstances, when it's very chilly, the wind is blowing so harshly, then you realize why they told me to bring the thick clothes. And then when you go to this very remote areas, there are no restaurants and there are no basic amenities, then you realize why they told me to bring water kettles on your own. So this is the example, the way we should approach the text that we have studied.
Tija tati dir samdra ta nganzu tanda tiga la chundu le ra chundu le ri khande jela na changa gela tro cha nganzu le ga kharche ni chundu le da ya duru le pe ga ti yo ti kha ga ra chundu le kar la na gewa chi du bala ani sem tro cha sem ki wo da de ge ga shin tro shin chi la ga to no dila ani ka le me ba de chi de la nganzu chundu le restra.
Now we move on to the fourth great perfection, and the fourth great perfection is the perfection of, here it's translated as enthusiastic diligence. Maybe a simpler word will be joyous effort. And now diligence, if we understand it as joyous effort, then it's already markedly different in our head. But when we say hard work, diligence, then we need to differentiate between hard work of the perfection and the diligence or hard work of the great perfection, and the normal type of hard work. Now in Tibetan we have two different words. We say duk ru and then tsun du. So tsun du is the actual great perfection that is mentioned here in the text. And the other one, duk ru, has this connotation of just bearing through it, on insistence, you have no real joy in doing this thing when you are putting in the same effort, but there's no joy in your effort. And so we need to make a distinction between these two type of efforts, or these two types of diligence. So
can you repeat
the difference? Okay. In Tibetan, we make this distinction between Tsun Ju and Duk Ru, and these are the two types of diligence. And here, when we talk about the enthusiastic diligence of a bodhisattva, then we say it's kind of a joyous effort. There is a joy that he puts in when he puts in the effort. But we know, in our real life, there is this two type of effort that we put in. We know sometimes we just bear through it, without any joy, but we put in the same effort. And this is not the enthusiastic diligence that is mentioned here in the text. So the great perfection of enthusiastic diligence or joyous effort is different from just putting in the effort. There needs to be joy in your effort.
Pini Pichinji and Kolon go to Ra. A pen and Chinjuda and Karsa. That Lobu Chiva Chipata, Che. The book has did not do Lojo Chini Madura. Then the chili and Pama Kajutan, Gigi Kajutan, Cholo Chiller. Taco ship Hamada, Gigila Shin Chejura, Chechore. Tuku Majaraja, the Kang the Kosher and Kazi Tilla Shero. The Shinago on the Chedra. Chini Madone, Taco Chewor. Tea Durudo Chevra. To Kali and young chicken is taken the way up Yungul and the Kutazi. Chini Madonna that Durudo Jera. So do let the Gashin talk. I think she would be the pair of so Janito. Magellan Chedeja. Cashido, Lonito. One day, Sindula. And this is better.
Oh, now like a differentiation like could be like made between like this type of efforts with this example. Now like, imagine like in school there are two type of like students. One who engages in studies at the insistence of his parents and teachers, and like due to the fear of failure that he has, and so when he approaches his study in this way, there is no real joy in it. Of course, he's putting in the same effort, but there is no joy in the way he learns. So this is the type of effort that is not the practice of a bodhisattva. And now the type of effort that we could say is the practice of a bodhisattva is the kind of student who has a natural curiosity to learn now. Then like with this natural curiosity to learn, he finds a joy in learning. And then like even though like in between these two, they put in the same effort, the other one learns better, you know. The other one like is able to enjoy his lessons more. He's able to like get a real taste of knowledge in the end. So this is the difference between joyous effort and like the other type of effort that we put in. So clear now? Okay. So like what kind of effort when you so as young people we will like engage in studies in the near future. So what kind of effort do you think would be beneficial when you engage in study? Like are you just going to bear through it, or do you want to like to learn it with like the joyous energy, or like you learn it with joyous effort? Mix. Depends upon.
It depends why you do it. If you do it because you are forced, or your works ask, or your parents, or if you do it because you want.
That pamagi chedu chigere, ana sosorangi chini dogere, odi la rali gres. Yes.
I also join and faith, a bit faith.
Bit faith.
Faith, yes, not only bit. You need to have faith into your capacities and also in your understanding.
So la ichi doji gores ya.
If there is a lack or loose, it's and you understand and you can compare also, then it will not give you satisfaction also while you are trying to learn.
The Quran susem nonglo susu la ichi doji mena ani khazegi pezunchina in last la susem nonglo deba khame deba cheme jiyo maris. You have a point?
Yeah, I think learning is more fun when you see its relevance.
Its relevance.
When the dots start to connect, it's fun. But if you're a kid learning times tables and you think it's pointless, then it's really hard, or you're just doing it because it's your homework. But if you understand, like, oh, if I can times tables, then I can work out, I don't know, how to like work out how many Pokeballs I have in Pokemon or something that's relevant, how it's useful, and then everything builds on each other. It's more like a game.
Ta koi lana ani ta khali toa la jik diora toa la di chunju la ro di kharila ra di lana chunju chiel toa di kharila di na ngala dewa duwe min de la jora ngai chik chinyu dugyo de la dewa duwe min de la wo dinda ro chila ra du las. Anyone else wants to share?
I'm actually thinking about it in relation to work, like the job that you have.
Yes.
Like I'm thinking about how it's better to enjoy your job while you do it, and not just like wait for the shift to be over. Which is not so easy sometimes.
그런저 치게를 내가 백해치 못 쓰기도 아니 건조기 내가 디여라 내가 따당 간제를 어디 가서 한번 당겨서 단다지여라 아니 내가 지도 좀봐 내가 좋아지기나 기부 용서레스 내가 제 두즈 거두 조기를 구대줘라 디나니 되게 좋으니 여와든지 차기도스
그냥 알아도야 차샤는 이거 막 제 마음으로 진이 제를 아니 당시다 그런 마음이지요 시절에 세리를 지시는 거죠 맞아 진주가 레저 마음이지더라 다 예럽도 자는 거 뒤에 거네 다 예럽 자는 거 들으랑 차고 알았어 하나 예럽 자네 그것이라 통은 아제 마음 바지를 기기는서 서상문들아 아니 디데블로 뒤에 고녀보다 반징 선징 거배 캔서 슈더라 예럽로니 좀도 제를로 나가 좋아합니다. 다 대신받고 나 쇼도나 아니 베키부 쇼다. 디디로서네 디지라 카레 디지라 먼저 대지로 도되나. 그래 대지로 마샤 말로사. 나는 칼라로 사가는 남서슬로 나디 나로지로야 좋아시되다. 봐. 당가 예럽 자는 거 병 거네. 진짜이 좋은다. 미 상원생대로 지기 마디주 짠자르다. 봐. 아니 ngazo isi tango de jira enga robot lagi chunanda ya pollo nga do teslas adi tins ra simba tashi tanga lo me le cheta dinga ngara le pesha ne jere brodla nga chunju de legi mira so na churo da ya simba de le simba de nga pe to ro legi de pechen ra
now like I want to share my own like experience too like when in my studies not just with the classical monastic education we are also like taught like social sciences history like civics and these kind of topics were introduced in our like education too and then like I was interested in like all the other like subjects but one like subject that really like bothered me and like that really I had a hard time like enjoying was history and when I look at the history that we are being taught and then like it's full of like this endless conflicts and this like endless like cross like conflicts and I didn't really see the point of me studying like this something that happened in the past and like I didn't have the aim to like become a history teacher and so I didn't really have like any inclination to study history at all and yeah, this is just to give you an example. Like in my own like studies, I had like instances where I just had to bear through it. There when there was like no joy in the effort that I had to put in my study. So what I used to do when the examination came, because of course I didn't pay attention in the class at all, so I used to ask the other students to make like a summary of what they have learned, and then I just read that summary and like face the exam with like okay, come what may, I'll just like make I will face it with like this like a summary I have.
Katanda kundu dia budaya mara. Dinde dengan ani karsanam 시간 되기더라. 아니 란던 바시 주비 예도다. 지당이 땅한 쪽에 어디를 리시네서 대바송이라. 년도 랑제 태체는라. 자 년도다 랑제도 수수지부가 되는 게 와. 수수지부 되는 게. 수수지부 야봉 신발좀 무슨 판지를 산도 땅 맞더니. 다 상주 선발라야다. 다 태체는 집어라. 근데 왜 상주 선발도 저 가려나? 라니 지부가 되는 많이 봐. 라 지지자도 많이 봐. 심지어 탐지기 되는 산다니. 근데 아니 항상 집어시고라. 근데 인도가 아니 날라다 란던 바시 두비 니란다나데 인도다 라젤라 니란다나스 니라양라데 니라도 카레나 라니 기부 되는 니고데 돈조야 단도 아니 라니기 된다게 두에 치든 베준치고라 카르사 골라 메셔 도터 좀 바이 세자 준비까지 라니 기부 된다라 빼네 골라 메셔 나시라 앵걸 메션도 빼다 책으로 쇼체라 쇼지디 메드셀라 답시 쇼땅으로 디 나시게 수수 지부가 된다다 아니 지부다 다 진년이 고 된대기 저에 치대 라나 걸 메쇼 나시게 된대기 준비 세워이나 라 된대기 통나 아니 제세 상주 선보다 더 로아콜 심지어 탄지를 상당 거라 로고 된대 연대 유네지라디다 된대 원하는 저 준비도 갈라나 로아 심지어 탄지다 아니 된대 제고 삼이게 되게 상주 선바도 저기 준비 주라 근데 준비 달라다 아주 미주 치드 치스라 거라 지금 아주 레프트가 도도 하려고는 수수 내가 중사지 사야 동야로다 근데 친주지래 아주 미주 근데 치고나 이 지기 사제다 상주 선비 고마 타야라다 아주 미주 치고도 그거라 거라 도도 되죠
now okay, we discussed like what is actual enthusiastic diligence or what is joyous effort, and now then how should we approach like this joyous effort in relation to striving to achieve like bodhicitta or like the qualities of a bodhisattva. So then like in Buddhism we say like the people on the spiritual path or with concerns of liberation are divided into like three type of persons. The first or the now like the lowest kind, the people with the lowest kind of capacity, the Shravakas, mentioned here in the third line. So in English, it's translated as the hearers. And then the second type of like people, one of like middling capacity or potential, are called the Pratyekya Buddhas. So in Tibetan, it's translated as Rang Sangye. Rang Sangye means like Rang means yourself. And Sangye means like enlightenment or like Buddhahood. So in this way, like this kind of person, he's only concerned about achieving liberation for himself only. So he's not concerned about like all these other sentient beings. So now it's given here the example like when you see like the hearers, the Shravakyas, or the Pratyekya Buddhas, these like people who are only concerned about liberation for themselves. When you see like these type of people, even when like these type of people, when they try to achieve liberation, they do it with such like dedication that like it's compared to like someone imagine like if your like head is caught on fire, then what will you do? Immediately like you would like try to put it out, right? At any cost, you will try to put it out. Like you will try to find like any kind of method. Like you just need to put it out. So this type of even like these Shravakas and Pratyekya Buddhas, they have like such like urgency to be liberated, and they approach liberation with such diligence. And then like if you have this intention of like altruistic intention of bodhicitta, then it does not need to be mentioned like the kind of effort, the kind of joyous effort that you need to put in.
배낭 저기 비선 시원이라 아주 통도 실로람들이라 미카지가 총바라 랑갈 총제되는 뭐뭐전에 애들 깔려 되다. 혼자 이제 딱고 디 깔려전에 타바단 탄시 참발나다 삼당 투에 깔려 가버라. 디게요 맞다. 이네 코로나 깔려 가서 남이 비투 줘야다. 수나나 경고다. 다 수수가 다 나디야 보셔야 시더라. 그래서 깔려 가도 저도 쉬운하고나 나고다 아빠도 깔려 잡는다. 봐. 디 지체 디치불아 안에 딘데기 쳐야지도 코도 깔려 딘데 저다. 아주 에너지 스페셜 저거라. 년도다 라제도 정말 미 토야 메들이 가르삼 땅고를 치나 근데 아주 수수 나를 버려도 쇼잉하고 란다가도 미 카싱하고 란 깔려 잡이더라. 고다부터 깔려 잡 니마타바 다리치 니마 간자 에 깔려 잡 가시 빼 니마 차오나 내가 진도 그라 가시 차와전에다 딘데라가 뭐친 디 가르라나 수수다 미치디단 제니 마시버다 가지고 초야게 치디 또그 두에 치디 치고라 딘데기 깔려 잡으나 통고도나 만족이다 만족 주의 냠내 치느라 마음바 안 수수게 두바자 마마 빵네 사제 고만 랑가 돼야다 텐데 대화 태외게 딘데기 산노치 땅이나 딘데기 쳇다 만족까지 잡되더라 세디치부 말에 마음바 수수 베드거나 다세르는서 대화는 돼야게 랑가지 두엘다 만족 깔려 제벨다 인데 인상으로 실려와라.
So maybe like when we talk about the example of like the Shravakas and the Pratyekya Buddhas, maybe like you feel these are like invisible things and this do not really have like a practical consequence in our life. So as I say, like we need to try to approach the text practically and try to relate it to our real life experiences. Like forget like the examples of like hearers and the Pratyekya Buddhas. Now I want you to try to take the example like people just trying to earn a livelihood, if you go to the market in McLeodganj, then if you see like the people who are trying to sell you something, and they do it for livelihood, right? To provide for their family, to provide for their family worldly concerns in a way. And now like even like though like these type of people, they do not have like this altruistic intention to benefit everyone, the amount of effort that they put is evident to us, right? Like the one, they get up very early in the morning, prepare their like stalls, and stay like in this heat of the sun, irrespective of the weather, just to like earn some money to provide for their family. And this is the amount of like effort that a normal person, for the sake of livelihood, puts in. Then like if you really want to set onto the path, the spiritual path, to develop the altruistic intention of benefiting all sentient beings and abandoning your negative afflictions, then it goes without saying, like it will take like much more effort, much more like joyous effort on your part